The art of war. The best general never fires a shot. Right? Good job. Good job. If you go around and you start saying that, you'll make people think that you read a book. Now, if they question you a little bit further, you'll prove that you haven't read it unless you know the follow-up, which is you must make your enemy believe that you possess a weapon that they can't deal with. And you must make your enemy believe that you're going to use it. That is the art of war. And that's the part that so seldomly happens. You'll have propaganda machines. You'll see entire regimes that don't have to fight anybody because they can put out the right image that they'd be really good if you had. You then will have some countries that will pretend that they have a weapon. They've got a satellite up in the sky and they can zoom in and they can look right through your window and they can tell you what you're having for breakfast, right? You hear these kinds of stories. That's really effective. That's really intimidating if I actually thought that you had it. So, Mr. Tough Guy, I had eggs and toast for breakfast today. Why don't you tell me, did I have them scrambled or sunny side up? And you see where the problem starts to come in? Now, let's say I had 3 and I had them poached, and you told me that. Whoa, I got a big problem, don't I? But if you did get the satellite up there and you've got that type of ability, are you really cold-blooded enough to use it? Are you really willing to let innocent people die for what's going to come down to nothing more than money? It's a very fascinating concept. But somebody only has power if they're willing to use it. And I'm looking at Michael Chandler's situation, and it is an incredible one. Michael Chandler, let me just allow a scenario for you, okay? The one thing that Michael Chandler has is he's got a spot on ESPN every single week, and he's got the ear of everybody within this space. Now, he's been consistent. He's been very straightforward. Ultimate Fighter, my team versus McGregor's. Here's what the rules are. Oh, by the way, at the end, we are going to commence this with a fight ourselves. Stand by. There'll be tickets. There'll be a channel. There'll be a network. There'll be bars and movie theaters in certain jurisdictions. You can get together with friends and you can watch me versus Conor. Now, it's starting to look as though that's not going to happen. It's starting to look as though that's not going to happen because there's nothing pushing Conor in that direction. And it's very tough to explain motives of a rich man. It's a very, very hard thing to do. But if Conor's going to fight Chandler, right? Because don't forget the art of war. We just discussed it. You've not only got to have a weapon that your opponent can't deal with, you have to make your opponent believe you're willing to use it. Why would Conor fight Chandler? Why? Why would he fight him? Is it for the money? I don't think any of us believe that. Is it for the title? Well, it's not a title fight. It's also been made very clear to us that Conor, between 155 and 170 pounds, could have a title fight today if that's what he chose to do. We've been told that. There was no reason to reveal the favoritism. There was no reason to reveal that this young man's draw and capacity to gain interest will push everybody back one step at 2 different weight classes if he does nothing more than ask for it over the phone. There was no reason to reveal it, and it was still revealed because it was the truth. And we know it, don't we, guys? And we understand it, don't we, guys? We don't have a big problem with it. But once we know and understand and don't have a problem with it, then we also must concede right back to ourselves, right, within this fictitious debate, that Conor is not doing this from a competitive standpoint. It is not about getting to a main event. He's already there. It's not about getting a title fight. He has an option of 2. He didn't want it. It's not about going and getting something new. That could be known as the BMF, but that spot is taken. So why is he going to do it? And ultimately, when you start to work yourself back, you'll do it because of ego. You'll do it because of identity. You would be stunned, even within yourself, you would be stunned what you are willing to do to preserve your identity. The way your friends look at you. The class clown will never stop. No matter how many times you stick him in the hall or you give him a detention or you threaten him with suspension or you call his mom and dad, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to be in trouble. He doesn't want to go to the detention. But his peers and classmates have said that he's the guy that's going to do the goofy things when the teacher turns around. He's the guy that's going to throw the paper airplane when they turn to write on the chalkboard. He can't get away from it. It's his identity. But nobody's putting Conor in that spot. Nobody is making Conor fighting Chandler about his courage or his drive or his skill set or his pursuit of. Nobody's done that. They have just made it about Conor, paperwork, and the United States Anti-Doping Agency. It's a very fascinating thing. But Conor's not the only one on ESPN once a week. So now all of a sudden, Michael Chandler's in a very interesting spot. Everybody that believes Chandler's going to sit here with his mouth shut because red pay tonight is real and he doesn't want to botch an opportunity. That's all true. That's all really true. But what if he wanted to quit playing so nice? There was Conor and TMZ in a bathroom and a great big, but Chandler's name wasn't in there. Conor was getting headlines all over. Whether you're famous or you're notorious, he's getting headlines all over the place. What would happen if Michael Chandler revealed to the world that he's about to go to the world and he's about to accept the challenge of Eddie Alvarez? What would happen then? What would happen then? He's waiting for a bout agreement. He's told them, I've done this and I've done this and I've waived everything and I've waived. I'm a prize fighter. I've got no fights. I've got no prize. I got wife, I got kids, I got things to do. I'm in my prime. Look at me. Look at what great shape I'm in. All of those things will be true, but he's never made the threat. He's never made a threat that, first off, he's never made it. But he's also, if he did make it, people may not take him serious. So how does Michael Chandler get people to understand that not only does he have a weapon, he's willing to use it? And what would happen then? I'm just asking the question, what would happen? Eddie Alvarez, one of the most sought-over free agents in our entire sport, Eddie Alvarez has now called out Michael Chandler to part 3. They've split the first 2. That is the weirdest matchmaking that I've ever seen in this sport. The fact that they haven't done a third fight is one of the most bizarre things that I've ever seen. I really do mean that. Of course, you go to that trilogy. You got to get it done. You got to get paperwork. You got to get a weight class. You got to get in the same organization. I understand those things. But what would happen if Chandler came out of nowhere and accepted? What is Conor going to say? Okay, great. I'm going to move on. I'm going to fight somebody else. Well, maybe you are. Maybe you aren't. You still got to do your paperwork. And then what about this thing on TV? I mean, as far as the fisherman goes, he got a big one, right? So what do you do in that perspective? What would happen if Michael Chandler came out with the position that he's got and he called for another opponent? What's going to happen? I'm asking you, what's going to happen? You're first going to have to go to the producers right away that one of your principals says he's not going to do this at the end of it. And then you're going to have a back and forth, and then you're going to muddy the waters. But it's going to be headline followed by headline, and it would be a very big deal. What would happen? Play it through. Do it quietly. Do it with yourself. What would happen? It made headlines that Chandler was challenged. Eddie Alvarez made headlines by challenging the guy who's on ESPN every single week. What would happen if that guy himself accepted or made a challenge of his own? Do you think that's going to go quiet? Do you think that's going to go unanswered? Do you think the Stephen Moroccos of the world, you think the Josh Grosses of the world, the Ariel Hawanis, if you will, are just going to move on, or are they going to have to go and they're going to get some clarity and they're going to answer for it, whether you like it or not, but they're going to give some kind of response. Then you're going to go back to Chandler and he's going to come in whether he likes it or not, and he's going to have a response. You're going to get a field day and you're going to go back and forth, or you're going to do nothing. Be a good little soldier. You're going to do as you're told. That could be true. But it's very seldom that you have a weapon that you can use. Very seldom. And when you do have that weapon, there's an honor in the integrity involved in not using it. But the art of war says you convince your opponent that you will.